In this podcast, I interview Rebekkah Finnigan, a registered nutrition, health and wellness coach. Recently, Rebekkah held a fantastic workshop for the Total Somatics members on brain and gut health. And so because it was so popular and she was so good with speaking to the members and explaining so much about her health and well-being, I wanted to spend time with her in this podcast to share with you some of those nuggets. And really, with Rebekkah, what you'll experience within this podcast is how she experienced firsthand with herself and also with her family members, how food started to affect them physically and mentally. And so she spent many years since researching, studying and coaching people to learn how to listen to their bodies and bring awareness around what they need in order to get the very best out of their life. And so part of this is breaking down the walls of old habits and building new habits that will transform their health and their well-being. And can you see why we resonated so much? Because as you know, within Total Somatics, we talk about habits a lot. That's why I wanted to share this with you. So Rebekkah specializes in autoimmune diseases, weight loss and stress management. She helps people to use food as medicine to reduce pain, help with weight, deal with inflammation and also help when they're suffering with depression. And really anything that's keeping people from being the person they truly want to be, she feels that food is medicine. So I look forward to sharing this wonderful podcast. Again, with Rebekkah, you're going to see so much resonates from what you know with other podcasts within Total Somatics, because her intention is to help people feel amazing from the inside out. So enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome to the Somatic Movement and Mindset podcast with me, clinical somatic educator and founder of Total Somatics, Heidi Hadley. The Somatic Movement and Mindset podcast has been designed to help you gain a deeper understanding to how your mind and body work. You will learn about your amazing mind and body and why over time you can feel pain, recurring injuries and poor posture. Within this podcast, I will teach you why this doesn't have to be your future or the norm for you. Would you like to learn how to reduce pain, move freely, and gain a new lease of life? Let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Now, today, I'm really excited to introduce you to Rebekkah Finnigan. Now, Rebekkah has recently held a workshop for the Total Somatics members, and I wanted to share her skills and her experience with you within the podcast so you can learn how much more benefit that basically food can be for medicine. So what I'd like to do is hand over Rebekkah to you. And Rebekkah, if you can tell us a little bit about who you are, how you came into this most rewarding career, that would be wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here. I am very passionate about what I do, and which is, the majority of my, adult life, I was in the corporate world. So to have the opportunity to move into coaching and help people with their gut health, because I had such terrible gut health and I didn't know it. I mean, my passion for nutrition really started with my kids. Because my kids were really sick when they were younger. I didn't really understand what was wrong with them. Josh's kindergarten teacher actually said, if Josh was my son, I would take him to the doctor. I think he needs to be on medication. And from his distractibility, basically. And I didn't really understand what she meant. And I didn't want to put him on medication. So I started to watch him and I was like, well, that's interesting. He's, maybe something's not quite there. And so I started to research food because we didn't really eat all that great. I don't like to cook. I still don't. And so we kind of just ate whatever, and when I started to research it, I was like, oh, wow, maybe the food we're eating really is making a difference. And, to make a super long story short, he was significantly affected by the food we were eating, and we completely changed our whole life. And he literally said to me, he was like 3 years old, and he's like, oh, Mom, my head's not in a cloud anymore. And he was so he literally would trip and just fall down. And all of this stuff changed when we changed the way that we ate. And then that was great. And as a mother, I was completely focused on him. But as they went into grade 1, I went back to the corporate world and started to work. And I had a very stressful job. And we would eat properly when we were at home for the boys, but I didn't. I traveled a lot and I ate really bad. And fast forward probably 10 years after I did this with Josh, and I went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, well, here, let me write you a prescription. And I was like, oh, ding, 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 ding. That's weird. That's exactly what they wanted to do for Josh. I wonder if I'm not eating right. Because of course I think I'm eating right, but of course I'm not. I'm eating out all the time. I'm eating, crappy food. And I did exactly that. And I found out like just an enormous amount, specifically sugar. I was super depressed and I was super stressed out and not mentally stable, to be honest with you. And I found out what sugar was doing to me, and ultimately a lot of the foods and how it was affecting my gut. And that literally changed my whole life. I'm like, okay, I'm not meant to be in the corporate world. I'm meant to do this, because even like when the boys were younger, I had lots of moms like, oh, how did you do that? How did you find out with your kids? And I'm like, oh yeah. And I would just help them and not really think anything of it. But then when I had my own awareness, I had my own like, aha, I was like, yeah, no, people don't realize, I didn't realize, people don't realize how affected we are mentally by the food that we eat. And I went back to school. I studied nutrition. I studied transformational coaching, and I left the corporate world. And now I've been a full-time coach for, this is going on my almost 5 years. So I'm in my 4th year right now.
And it's amazing, isn't it, when you actually have your own personal experience like that, because you are your best case study, really. And when you feel the changes and you see it in children as well, that's where the power is. And sugar in itself, I mean, that's where we're really learning now that the harm to our body and to our emotional, mental, physical well-being. Sugar plays a powerful role in that, doesn't it?
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. And for me to have such a sweet tooth and still be able to figure out how to have that and not have sugar, anybody can do it, but it really, to me, like I often like to call myself an awareness coach, because I knew that sugar was bad for me. It's not that I didn't know that. Yeah. And I still would eat bags of, candy or donuts or whatever, but I was never overweight. Like I've been the same size my whole life. And people attribute to that to being overweight or physically looking bad. I think the average person doesn't quite make the connection on their mental state and how what they're eating is affecting their mentally on, oh, well, I'm really stressed out at work. But have you maybe made the connection that you're not eating so well, so you're clouded in the brain, and it's actually having you making choices that stress you out even further? Like making those connections and becoming aware of exactly what you're feeding yourself and how it's impacting you mentally. When you have that awareness, then you can make change. Then we're like, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. And that's what my coaching is all about. That's what my membership's all about, is really becoming totally body aware so that you can start to make those choices instead of somebody telling you, like, oh yeah, you should eat more veggies. Well, we know that, but we don't do it.
It's true. Right? It's true. And I think that's the thing, is if people shift from thinking that if you're skinny or slim, it means you're healthy, but it's actually going underneath the skin at the biochemistry and how your hormones are responding, because some people can be very slim, very thin, but they can actually be very unhealthy underneath, can't they? And for that reason, I think that's where things have got a little bit warped in society, where what you look like externally is a reflection of your well-being and your health, but it's not always the case.
Oh, totally. And I mean, in the recent years, there's been quite a shift in people understanding mental health and just being like, oh, okay, yeah, somebody can look healthy and look happy and be really, really sad and mentally unstable. But it really, it starts in the gut. Our hormones are in our gut, our immune system is in our gut. If our gut's not happy, our brain's not happy. And we don't always make that connection. And when we have toxic overload and it is impacting our gut, that just makes matters even worse, because then we can't actually communicate properly to our brains. And not that I'm against doctors or I'm against medication, but oftentimes we get over medicated, which just contributes to the toxic overload. And now you're wanting that medication to help you, and it actually is hurting you more than helping in some cases. But to be like, okay, well, what am I eating? How can I become aware of some simple changes to be able to just impact that and have that have that awareness too. Okay, yeah, maybe I don't need all this medication. I'm going to do this with food because I put just a ton of people through elimination diets. I counted my last reset. I did a group reset, and I'm close to 1,000 people that I've put through an elimination diet. And it's transformational because you really become aware, like, oh, okay, my body doesn't like dairy, or my body doesn't like sugar, or this is what happens to me mentally, physically, emotionally, when I eat this stuff. So it's very powerful.
Well, I was going to say it is powerful because, like, recently we were saying that you've been in the Total Somatics membership and you've done a workshop with them all, and we were discussing things really close to our hearts, so brain health and immunity and gut health and habits as well, which is really something we talk a lot about, is those habits as well. So, you've already kind of mentioned a little bit, but how important is your brain and gut health when we think of like inflammation, immunity, and general mental well-being?
Oh, 100%. There's a statistics that shows that, the study was actually shown on teens and young adults, where 80% of them, right, that had a Western diet, right, not a healthy Mediterranean, fruits and veggies, whole foods diet, 80% of them were more apt to have ADD, ADHD, depression, all these mental disorders, all based on this Western high fat, high calorie, high junk food diet on us mentally. And that study was just for like teens and young adults, but it's for all of us. It's really impactful on those things that we can change to mentally be more stable. And whether it be switching to a whole foods diet and making sure that you eat a balance. I call it a magic plate, where you have a balance of a protein, fat, and fiber, not fried chicken, not vegetable oils, like, really healthy stuff, that outer rim of the grocery store type of stuff, and really being able to clean through. And that clean eating helps to start to detox some of these things and then start to communicate to your brain so much better. Something as simple as water. And I talked about this a bit in the workshop, to where, water, it's like we all know we need to drink, right? And it's this, most people, or a lot of people, I should say, are like, oh, well, yeah, because I get dehydrated. Well, our brains are 80% water. 80% water. So when our body and we're functioning need more water, it kind of strips it from our brain. So when we get a headache and we get dizzy and we get foggy and we get stressed out, or we get kind of out of it, it might be because you're thirsty, because you sucked all the water out of your brain, like as simple as that. But we're just like, oh, well, yeah, my mouth's a little pasty. Well, maybe your mental state is actually dehydration. And prolonged dehydration is going to have an impact on your mental health and on your mental ability to focus and be totally aware. Simple things like that.
Well, I think that's really powerful, because that's the sort of ethos within Total Somatics, is that we treat our body as a whole, whereas people try and break things down and isolate, like you were just saying, the brain or the headaches, and then they might just talk about, I don't know, a joint issue. But it's all encompassing, isn't it? Because of course, what we eat, our habits, it increases, or it affects our inflammation, it'll affect our immunity and all those sorts of things. And it actually just made me think, with the way that we've had all these ongoing challenges, the way that the world has been, and as we record this, we're going into the end of the second year of a pandemic. There's been so many challenges. And so it's that battle, isn't it? That there's the emotional side of things. And then it's pretty easy to then go into having that junk food, or to have that high carbohydrate, that sugary food. And then what happens is it's that vicious circle of your mood's affected, and then you want a bit more of the sugar or whatever it is that you opt for. Then the inflammation levels increase, and then the cortisol, everything's kicking off. So what have you found, any trends or behavioral patterns during this whole period of time? Is there anything in particular you've seen in your own practice?
Oh, 100%. Because we have that, we want to feel good. And it's been almost 2 years of feeling lost and feeling confused and not feeling good and feeling scared or fearful, and all of these things. And we want that instant gratification. And most people gravitate towards food. And we don't take that, quick step back to be like, okay, I'm not really hungry, because we just want to feel good. And we have that initial high when we have a piece of pie, right? but then it goes away. And we never really have that awareness that, okay, well, the pie didn't help me feel better. You know what? I'll have another piece because then I'll have that instant gratification. And so it's this spiral, right? Which then, and then the more we're sick, the more we want food to make us feel good and feel comforted. And it's this awareness or this curiosity, right? To step back and be like, okay, I'm not hungry. Why am I eating right now? Right. And a lot of that comes through coaching or just even just awareness that that's there. A lot of times we aren't hungry, right? We are just wanting to feel good. We're disappointed. We're anxious. We're fearful. And comfort comes in food.
Mm.
But it's literally that one sentence. And I often say that to my clients that struggle with this disappointment or this attraction to food or, or even procrastination. A big one is when you're trying to procrastinate something. It's like, oh, well, I'm just going to go make a sandwich. It's like, but are you hungry? And it's that simple question to be like, am I hungry? And then it's like, not really. I'm not really hungry. Maybe I'm thirsty. Maybe I should go for a walk. Maybe I should just get out of my seat. It's that simple, am I hungry question can knock it back into something else and starting to learn other things that you enjoy that you could do to help you not feel disappointed or feel full or unhappy, these types of things.
It's almost breaking that loop of that habit, isn't it? Because, they always say, don't they, that dopamine, that pleasure hormone, you want to get that spike of that pleasure, that feeling again of the dopamine, either it being sugar or, cocaine. They've said it's the same sort of thing, that basically when you try and go back for that sugar hit again, it's never quite the same as the time before, which is why they say that people have that little bit more and that little bit more to try and get that kickback, try and get that kick again. So that's that habit, isn't it, where we just get addicted to that sensation. And as you said, if we can find pleasure in other places, going for a walk in nature, or I know that my mom years ago, she used to say when she felt like that sugar craving was coming, she'd just start doing some star jumps, or she'd go outside and do a little bit of skipping, because it literally would break that habit of thinking, oh, let me just go to the cupboard. No, and it really does. It really is just about a quick mindset shift, isn't it? Instead of being that, oh, let me just get it, because sometimes the fantasy in your head of what that chocolate bar's like, for instance, it's not as great as what it is when you actually have it.
100%. You're so right. And it just is that split second. And so when you really want to be curious and you really are, it's that split, drink a glass of water literally and do one jumping jack. It's that distraction that, oh, I don't really want this, because it is just like drugs. And so just like if you were to be happy with one little chocolate bar, well, next time you go, you need 2 chocolate bars. Well, now you need 2 chocolate bars and a sweet tea. And now you need and so it's a spiral. And then next thing you know, you're used to not feeling good. And I have a lot of clients that will be like, I don't remember what it's like to feel good. It's like, well, what would it be like if you actually got that and you got aware of what it felt like to be good again? So you could be like, yeah, I'm not going back to that, because I know that makes me feel like crap. But this over here, but we forget, because we go on this downward spiral and we just want to be a little bit better. Well, you'll feel a little bit better if you pause and you don't go for the chocolate bar, or at least not the chocolate bar and the donut and the sweet tea.
That's right. It's true.
But it takes intention. It takes intention, just like your mom. She had to intentionally say, you know what, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to do some jumping jacks, or whatever. And it doesn't have to be jumping jacks. It could be as simple as, just switching seats and I'm going to pet the dog for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Animals
it's another way of getting that. Happy. Yeah, it's another way of getting that kind of rush or energy, isn't it? Because sometimes it's just, if you're feeling a bit stagnant with your energy, it is just move your body. That's what we're always saying. Is you say about like your food is medicine. We always say like movement is medicine. It's all of that. It gets everything moving, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%.
So what are some of your like success stories where, when you see people that have really struggled with their health, and then they've made these transformational changes? What kind of experiences and success stories have you got?
You know what? I'm very proud. I'm very proud of my clients. And, you were asking me earlier about inflammation. A lot of my clients come to me that are experiencing pain, or they do have an autoimmune disease. And these are the best success stories, because some of them are on medication to deal with the autoimmune, or they have such inflammation that they can't walk, or they can't do all the things that they love, get on the floor with their grandchildren or just even their children, not even to say that they're aged, and to be able to start to bring awareness around the foods that they are eating specifically for them. There's lots of trends on diets like paleo or keto or these types of things. And the essence of these diets are all around whole foods, which is great. But it doesn't mean that you as an individual or Betty or Sally or anybody else, that those particular foods that they say are good for you are good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a client that has lupus, and through an extensive elimination diet, she found out, and she's Italian, and she found out that tomatoes were causing a lot of her inflammation. Well, tomatoes are a very common inflammatory because it's a nightshade. And so when she started to do it, so not so much peppers and some of the other nightshades, but specifically tomatoes, that's life-changing when you struggle with lupus and you're on so much medication, to find out that tomatoes was impacting the way that her feet were so that she could actually function. To take that away, there's so many alternatives for tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
That's life-changing when you can start to feel that way.
Mm.
I have other client. I have another great story I have is a client that was on a short-term disability because she couldn't work and she couldn't do things, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. She had problems with her feet. She literally had like these boils on her feet, and she had like all sorts of stuff. I think at the time, I think she was 34, right? And she had all this stuff, and the doctor's like, we don't know. She was on so many antibiotics. They were constantly giving her antibiotics because they thought that it was an infection. Well, the state of her gut was a hot mess, right? So then she got introduced to me, referred by another client, and she was like, I'm just willing to try anything. So, which is great, because then we did. It wasn't even 3 months, and she was a completely different person because she changed what she was eating. She cleaned out her gut, right? Luckily, because you're going to do the rounds of the antibiotics that the doctor said. But as she started to feel better, and we could actually drain this toxic glass and get her gut back into a state that could manage, because antibiotics literally, well, it kills everything, right? And so it was killing everything in her body, and her body was reacting by wanting these toxins to get out of her body, very simply put, right? That is a transformational story that I just absolutely love. And that is so rewarding. Like you were saying when we first started, like, how did you get into this rewarding career? Like, in all of my days in the corporate life, and I loved my job, and I was proud of it. And no, it does not compare to when you literally change somebody's life to be able to go back and do all the physical things that they want to do that they couldn't do because they were in so much pain based on a simple food that they might have thought was healthy.
Yeah.
Right. And switch. I mean, it's easy if somebody eats at McDonald's every day and you start to switch and they're like, oh, I feel great now. But people that think that they are eating healthy in the realm of like diets, or the government's say on what a healthy diet is, but it might not be healthy for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love to do, is let's figure out what's bothering you, so yeah. Very rewarding.
And I think when you're saying that, it just makes me in awe again of our amazing human body and how resilient it is, and how quickly, when you said 3 months, and you think, oh, that lady would have had all these different things happening. But, if we give ourselves the correct fuel and we continue developing those healthy habits, it's subconsciously all these things are happening. We don't have to micromanage each cell and the osmosis or diffusion or any of that that's going on internally. That just happens. It's literally allowing that process to happen. But yeah, when you said that, I just thought how resilient and how amazing is the human body, that all those new cells were being generated, the gut, which would have had a real blasting with all those antibiotics, how quickly it started to flourish again, to how it should be. Amazing.
Yeah. It doesn't take a long time. It just takes intention, and it takes awareness on what your body is experiencing. I mean, even people that are like, oh yeah, I'm so addicted to sugar. I was addicted to sugar. Our taste buds change every 5 days, if not before. It's like 3 to 5 days. So you think that you can't change not do sugar? It takes 3 days, not even, for you to have a different taste. And it's like, oh, okay, that's great. And then just feed off of that, and then your gut's going to be so much better, and then you start to feel like, oh my gosh, why do I have this? But then it takes literally one chocolate bar or one sweet tea or whatever, and your taste buds go, oh, that crack is good. I want more of that, right? That's like, okay, give yourself some time. Go ahead, enjoy some, birthday cake, but then reset back into, a healthy way of living so that you can still not have inflammation or not have pain or not feel cloudy, not feel mentally unstable because your gut's like, yeah, I don't want any part of this.
Yeah.
You were talking about your immune system's in your gut. So when your gut's not healthy, your immune system is constantly attacking it. It's trying to fix it. It's trying to make it healthy, which weakens the immune system. So hence why autoimmune diseases are so, starting with gut health, because your immune system starts to get exhausted. It gets exhausted and it's constantly fighting all these toxins in your body from your gut. So when you start to clean that, it starts to strengthen your immune system. So this way you're not getting a cold all the time, or you're not getting sick or whatever. Like a lot of autoimmune people or people that have really bad gut health, they get sick all the time. And they're like, oh, I'm sick all the time, which then they go on antibiotics. And then so it's like this vicious circle. And it's like, okay, what can I do to stop this cycle?
Yeah. And I was just going to say, jumping back to the taste buds thing, which is really interesting, because have you ever encountered this? I know I was at the supermarket and I was getting my shopping, and obviously the person on the checkout, they must find it really fascinating, the food that comes through, so she's watching all my food come through. She says, oh, I've never seen that before, and then something else will come through. She goes, oh, is that nice? I go, yeah, it's really nice. And then the next thing will come through. She goes, oh, I've tasted that. It's a bit bland. And I went, do you think so? I thought it was really sweet. I thought it was really nice. And it's really funny, isn't it? Because if you kind of go for more of the whole foods, and obviously her taste buds, she must love a lot more of the sugary things. So she classed that as quite bland, whereas I actually thought, oh, I thought it was actually quite sweet. So it's funny, isn't it, how those taste buds do shift. But again, it's a reflection of what you're consuming, really. To
100%.
I was genuinely surprised.
Yeah. And it doesn't take long. It's funny that you say that, because I recently found this recipe. We like a lot of people in the pandemic got an air fryer. Okay. And so I figured out, or I found this recipe or whatever, to be able to make muffins in the air fryer. And it is a delicious, healthy muffin. It's literally like oatmeal, half a banana, frozen blueberries, and vanilla and some baking soda or something like that, right? That's it. So I was talking about it one time with people around my house, and this older woman's like, oh my gosh, I got an air fryer. I'm going to make that. And I'm like, oh, it's so good. Like it literally tastes like a blueberry pie, right? Like it's super great, whatever. I love it. Like we eat it like a cake, right? Well, she made it. She saw me. She's like, oh my God, Rebekkah, I should have known that you're going to give me that healthy crap. And I was like, what? And I find it it's got a banana, it's got blueberry, like it tastes fantastic. She's like, if I'm going to make it again, I'm going to make sure to put some sugar in it, because it was really plain. And I was like, good on her. Like, great. She can go knock herself out. But it is exactly that, where I thought it was just great. And she was like, oh, but that healthy crap. But it doesn't take long. If she literally just kind of, change. Another tip that I was mentioning too in the workshop, and I'll mention again here, is, the power of cinnamon. Oh, yeah. Cinnamon is actually very, very sweet, and it reacts the same to our taste buds like sugar. Now, yeah, the first time that you substitute sugar with cinnamon, or substitute sugar with cinnamon, it's going to taste like cinnamon, right? But like the second time, you're going to be like, wow, that cinnamon tastes really good. And your tongue's going to like it. And, it's like one time, not putting sugar in your coffee and just putting cinnamon instead. Yes. The first time you're going to be like, this is missing sugar. Yeah. And the second time you're going to be like, this actually tastes really, really good. It doesn't take a long time.
And I think that's the dialogue, isn't it? It's the dialogue that's reminding you it's not sugar. It's not actually the sensation as it is. And it's a bit like I was having a conversation with someone recently, and they're struggling with their weight and that sort of thing. And I was saying to them, what are you having for breakfast? And basically they have like a bit of white toast, or sometimes they have a bit of cereal. And I said, have you ever thought of bringing in like good fats and also some protein? So maybe like a little bit of salmon or avocado. And she went, oh, I wouldn't have that for breakfast, and things like this. And I said, well, why don't you try it? Because that will just regulate your sugars throughout, it will keep the sugars going throughout the day. And it was really interesting, because she said, no, I've never done that. I won't do it. I might have a yogurt or something, but I won't do that. And I said, but if you're wanting to change and that's what you've been doing so far, and you feel unsatisfied that it's not helping with your energy and your inflammation and your weight, surely you'd want to try something different. I said, because that's not working for you, is it? And she went, well, I suppose not. And literally, it was all to do with the mindset shift, isn't it? It's kind of getting out of that little bubble of thinking, I've got to stick with this because this is all the way it's been. But that's the same thing, isn't it? It's just that shift. And if someone's going, well, I don't want to do that, I've always done this, you've got to ask yourself, well, what's the results at this point doing that life decision? Is it worth changing?
100%. You're so, and this is the crutch of a lot of my clients when they initially come, you know, or even like the idea that, okay, well, when they do want to change, well, I need to go on a diet, but I'm only going to do this and these restrictions and blah, 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 but I can't live without my coffee and my oatmeal in the morning. So blah, like, and they start to modify it. And it's like, okay, first of all, you don't need to be on a diet. You need to eat right for your body. B, just like you said, you need a protein, fat, and a fiber. You need to balance out your blood sugar level. And a lot of people, I shouldn't say most, a lot of people start their day off very refined carb heavy, you know, whether it is toast or whether it is cereal or whether it is oatmeal, you know, all of these things are very high in contributing to sugar, and you're starting your day off like that. So then that takes the taste buds, and then you're on this daily spiral of all the choices that you make. It's not really balanced. So you are spot on and being like, if she just added some protein, even if she added some hemp seeds to her cereal, you know, added some nuts, some almonds or whatever, like this is going to bring down the sugar level in it and balance it out and make it, I mean, I can make anything magic except a chocolate bar. I can make a dark chocolate bar magic. But, and when I say magic, meaning making it a balanced plate of protein, fat, and fiber.
Yeah. Oh no, it's absolutely brilliant. And I was going to say, what would you say, because everyone's kind of up and down wherever they live in the world, you know, with all this ongoing challenge and stress, you know, thinking of our gut and our mental well-being as well, and our brain health, if you've got like 3 top tips that people would find manageable just to keep us going through these ups and downs at the moment.
Manageable, yes. I have some very simple, like one is water. You know, that's very, very simple. And it's, oh yeah, Rebekkah, but it really is. Like I was saying, our brain is 80% water. And when we're not feeling good, even when we're not happy, you know, we're emotionally drained or mentally drained, you know, water really is a simple thing to do, and just be intentional about drinking it all day long. And you know, one of the tips I say to people that aren't great water drinkers is, you don't have to go and buy a 64-ounce water bottle and be like, okay, I need to drink all this water today, and all of a sudden be like this. Well, you didn't drink any water yesterday. What makes you think you're going to drink all this water today, right? Just be intentional about drinking 1 glass of water as soon as you wake up. Because if that's the first thing that's hitting your lips in the morning, you're going to be more apt to drink throughout the day. And you at least drink 1 more glass today than you did yesterday, because you drank it first thing in the morning. And so it's a very simple thing to just be super intentional about your water. I have a water alarm on my phone, and it goes off twice a day. I talk to clients all day long. It goes off at 10:30 and at 3:15. And it's because I can get busy talking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, have I even got up to refill my glass? Like, have I, like, you know, to be intentional about it. So it's putting those things in place to make water a priority, which is super, super beneficial to your gut, to your mental state, these types of things. I would say another easy, you know, eating a whole foods diet is really high up there. Being able to have fermented foods and probiotics and all of the healthy things that are for your gut are very, very important. And I would say would be right up there to feeding your gut healthy. But, you know, the one that I would love to share, and I shared a bit of it in the workshop, but I want to share for all your listeners, is gratitude. Because gratitude changes us on a cellular level. And it really does. And when we can start to embrace and reframe the negativity and the dialogue that's going around in hard times, sad times, changing times, whatever it is, and you flip the dialogue, flip the narrative, right? And just really start to be grateful, it changes everything about you. it literally tells your brain to, oh, okay, we're not looking at the negative anymore right now. We're going to start to look at the positive, and you start to see things in a positive way. You know, I'll never forget, I shared this story a while ago to where I was sitting and I can see the garbage men come get my garbage, right? And I looked out the window and I saw that they were coming, and he threw my bins, right? And my initial thought was, oh my gosh, like now I got to get, the bins are going to go flying down the street. Like what a mess, blah, blah, blah. And I literally caught myself because I was like, thank God I have a garbage man that comes and picks up my junk.
Yeah.
And he comes by every week and takes my garbage. No questions asked. I don't have to pay for it. Irrelevant if I pay for taxes, blah, blah, blah. That's not the conversation here. But,
Yeah.
you know, I got super grateful that he picks up my garbage. So what? He's got time to do. He's got 1,000 people's garbage he's got to pick up. So what that he, you know, didn't purposely throw my bin, right? So sometimes we get that dialogue to be like, oh, we get all mad. It's like, catch yourself in a negative moment or and reframe it to be like, actually, no, I'm so grateful that I had that garbage man to pick up my garbage.
Yeah.
And there's many of those things throughout our day. So when we can start to see, like, acknowledge the negative and be like, okay, yeah. No. What's the good of that? How can I reframe that to be a benefit? You know, a gratitude, a gratefulness.
Yeah.
It literally changes everything, and it significantly impacts your gut.
Mm.
You know,
I think that's a really powerful point, because without going slightly off from that and getting all philosophical and things, but with everything that we've had in the last year and a half, I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people have come to appreciate, is that gratitude of either living in a place that's, because where we are in South Australia, we're very grateful that it's been pretty manageable here. But it's even other things such as just having all those close people nearby, you know, that support system, and realizing that things don't equal happiness. It's actually your the deep, meaningful relationships you have with people. It's those small little moments, like you were saying, that if it wasn't for that garbage man, you'd have rubbish piled high, wouldn't you? I mean, the place, you'd have rats everywhere. I mean, it'd be filthy. I do think it's because of keeping your streets clean and keeping your gardens clean that you get to enjoy this very clean environment and country that you're in. Do you see what I mean? It's all those sorts of things. And I just think if there's a silver lining in all of this, it's made us stop being the sort that we've just got to grab everything to think that's going to give us happiness, but it's actually coming back to ourselves and those that are most important around us, and being very grateful for what, you know, where we are in the world as well. Really important.
and we have that power to choose that.
Yeah.
We choose whether to see the negative or we choose to see the positive.
Mm.
And I'm not talking about Pollyanna, but it's just you choose. And the more you practice and the more you reframe to see the positive, the more you'll actually see it.
Mm. It's true.
You know.
And it really is the lens that you look through, isn't it? So it's because you either choose each day to look for something that's going to be grateful, or you can choose to look for things to be offended or take, you know, one of my favorite, you would have heard of him, Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he actually said that some people wake up every day looking to be offended. And that's literally the lens that they look through. So it's like, do we want to look through that lens, or do we want to look through that gratitude lens? Because again, that's where it takes us even back to when you say on a cellular level, when we think of how extraordinary our whole human body is, and we have this system that's just keeping us alive. It's incredible.
And we have that choice every day. I love this. I recently heard this analogy, and I believe it was from Mel Robbins. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but it was like, you know, when you're driving down the road, you never see an Acura. You never see a particular car, right? But then all of a sudden you decide that you want to buy that car. And then all you do is you only see that car. You don't see any other cars. You see that one car and you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize there were so many of these cars. That's because you chose to unconsciously, consciously, whatever, to look for those cars. So your brain goes, oh, okay, look at all these cars. So you started to see that. So when you do wake up and you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna, you know, I don't know, be pissed off all day or whatever, you know, you are unconsciously making that choice, as opposed to, you know what, today's going to be good. That affirmation is so important in the morning. And to be honest with you, I coach a lot of that. It's almost more important to have it right before we go to bed.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have that, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. And their first thought when they hit the pillow is, ugh, as opposed to today was great. Tomorrow's going to be even better. Because
Yeah.
you wake up with the energy that you went to bed with.
Yeah.
So when you have that energy and you're like, yeah, you know what? Yesterday was not so bad. I learned a lot. Okay, good or bad, whatever. But today I'm going to knock it out of the park.
And it's true, isn't it? Because what you focus on grows, and that's what it is that's still part of that habit. So as you say, at bedtime, doing it, and even just framing your day at the start of the day, because what do a lot of people do as a habit before they go to bed? They're still scrolling through the media or social media. So they're kind of filling their mind with some either distressing images or disempowering beliefs, or it just reinforces a self-esteem or a self-worth issue that they have. And instead of that, it's actually coming back from within, because we know, to be honest, social media, it's all smoke and mirrors. So it's never really what people put out there. So I think that's such a powerful thing about the gratitude practice. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
And it's interesting to know that it does revolve the same as food. Like food impacts us just as much as, or I should say, gratitude or negativity impacts us just as the food does.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize and make that connection on how it changes us cellularly, how it affects our gut. And you can eat healthy all you want. You could eat the whole foods diet. You could eat on the outer circles of the grocery store and do all that. But if you're super negative and you're super stressed out,
yeah,
it's not going to be enough. It's not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the same in what I say in total somatics. You can do all the movement practice, but if you're not doing the mindset and the mindfulness, there's something missing, and you're still going to benefit from the movement, but it's not really going to knit as that new healthy daily awareness practice. And that's what you said. It's listening to your body. It's that awareness throughout the day, not just when you, like in your instance, if it's preparing and sitting down for a meal, but it's the whole everything really, isn't it? It's that whole
it really is
awareness. Yeah. So it's been brilliant, Rebekkah. Now, how can people find out more about you and that sort of thing? If you let us know, that would be awesome.
I would love that. So my company is called Energy in Motion. So I am the Energy in Motion coach. So everything is Energy in Motion coach. So you can find me at in the internet, energyinmotioncoach.com, on social media, on Facebook and on Instagram with energyinmotioncoach.com, or Energy in Motion Coach, I should say, on the social media. And then you can email me, Rebekkah.Finnigan@hotmail.ca. Right on my website, there's a chat feature so that you can immediately connect with me, which is a great feature as well. And yeah, I'm anybody that's not feeling 100%, whether you're experiencing pain, whether you have an autoimmune disease, or whether you're just not good mentally, because a lot of times, and I speak from my own personal experience, mine came for me initially feeling mentally bad, and then realizing, oh, wow, I'm eating all of this stuff, particularly sugar and some other things that was affecting my mental health. And I'm a completely different person, in a great way, not, in any, well, obviously not in a bad way, but
Well, what I'll do, Rebekkah, is I'll make sure all these links are in the show notes so people can go to either your social media, your website, contact page, all that sort of thing. So I'll make sure it's easy. So that'll all be in the show notes. And also we'll put a bit more of your bio, a bit more of your information so people can be reminded of how wonderful you are and how much you've changed so many people's lives, and they can reach out to you to also get that assistance too. So thank you.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'll give you a link so they can download my 5 simple tips to feel amazing.
That would be brilliant.
And so they could download that too. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And on behalf of the Total Somatics membership, I also want to say thank you from them too, because it's so nice bringing in experts. And again, having that somatic or that sort of global approach to our well-being is so important, more than ever before. So thank you so much.
And thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all. So take care. And thank you everybody for listening. And I will see you very soon. Take care. Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and also forward this on to somebody you know will benefit. To learn more about pain relief, plus how to improve your health and well-being, go to totalsomatics.com. Until next time, take care.